So thank you all so much for joining me today to talk about your production of The Book of Will at International Academy East High School. How are you all doing?
Good.
Good.
Yeah,
Pretty
we're doing
good.
good, I think.
We are glad to hear that. We got through that intro finally. Woo! So you're currently in rehearsals, because the show is not until November 22nd and 21st. Ishani, I want to start with you. How is the production or the rehearsal been so far?
It's been really good. Honestly, I think this is like one of our smoothest plays at IA just because like once we first got off book, like it was like the smoothest off book rehearsal I've seen ever. And even our director, she said that that was the cleanest off book rehearsal she's seen ever in her career, which I thought was kind of crazy.
That has to be like a really good feeling.
Yeah.
Carlos, how has it been for you?
It's so much of the same. Like going off book, it's like, okay, this is going to take a little bit of a step back. But when we finally made it past that, which was incredibly quick because of how good those off book rehearsals were, when we made it past that little off book hump, getting into the emotions and everything has just been so fun. Like going through blocking, it's like, why did I choose to do this? And then after that, it's like, I love this. And that's how it's been for me right now.
Annika, what is it kind of like to like get to that point of being off book? Has it been a easy journey getting there?
I mean, I guess I'd say I think we all kind of have a bias because we're all seniors and we've done this a bunch of times before, so we kind of know how it goes. But even honestly, with like the younger cast members that we have in this like play, it's been so much smoother than we had intended it to be. Like I remember when I was a freshman and a sophomore, like I was in Midsummer Dream in my sophomore year. That was like my first major role. That was like a storm to get through. When we went off book, it was such a crazy, because there was so much to remember and I had no experience with it. But I think this time around, it's been really awesome to get to like have this kind of like official experience since we've been through the run now. So to have to do this, like to get to do this with all my friends now is like so much fun now that we've all had the hang of it.
Samir, what is it like now to finally be off book and just rolling with it?
Yeah, to be off book is really wonderful because it's like my least favorite part about drama is memorizing, of course. And so to be off book, just to be able to use your hands, to finally be able to like get to the fun part, which is of course trying to convey like these emotions instead of just focusing on what I'm saying and when I'm saying it. So the fact that it's gone so smoothly so far has meant it's like we can focus on the stuff that really matters.
It's kind of like that transition from being like super technical to finding the emotional aspects of it.
Yeah, I'd say that.
So I'm going to be very honest with all four of you. When I was approached about interviewing you guys, I knew nothing about the Book of Will. I actually had to do some research. Your teacher gave me some pretty good information as well. Carlos, can you kick us off and kind of start us with what is the Book of Will about?
All right. So it takes place in, I believe, the early 1600s. And it is about the king's men, as well as their wives, helping and aiding to recollect the works of Shakespeare so that they can live on. And throughout the journey, it goes through character arcs like John's not being willing to go through with it because of the time and the money and the rights, and I'm the one trying to convince him. Then it goes through, wait, we might have actual chance at this when we discover the actors' sides and all these lines and places, and then it's the means to publishing the book, which is where me and John flip, and I'm like, no, I don't want to publish through that guy. And John's like, he's our only choice because the guy we hate. And throughout the play, it goes through like, what is the legacy worth? How should we accomplish the legacy? Does it matter how the legacy is accomplished? And I think during the play, John, which is Samir's character, outright says, is a legacy worth a life? So I think that covers a lot of the main bases of the Book of Will.
So Ishani, who are you playing in this story, and what is kind of their narrative throughout the Book of Will?
Yeah, so I'm playing Elizabeth Condell, who is the wife of Henry Condell, who is one of the main actors in The King's Men. And her deal is kind of more of a support role for Henry because she's kind of just someone for him to lean on. And although she's kind of just like there to support him, she's very much an independent person of her own, and she has like her own kind of morals and beliefs about this, like putting this play together, because she's more of like
oh, you need to be careful because people might not want to invest in this book. And she's kind of the one taking initiative for Henry to tell him, like, hey, this could still be dangerous. Like, you should watch out for the money. And in that, she's kind of like, oh, but also make sure you give me a cut too because I'm helping you out. So
So what do you feel like is her like main motivator through the show?
I think she also really wants to see this book happen. She says, oh, like this is a brilliant tribute, and it's a really good idea because she obviously wants to see like this collected work be there for the public. And I think she's also really motivated to see her husband get his dream and live his dream.
So speaking of Henry, Carlos, you're playing Henry. So who is Henry to you throughout this narrative? It sounds like there's quite a bit of a pull with John, the character.
Yeah. So Henry to me he's this, I got my sights on what I want to do, and I got my sights on what I don't want to do, and it's going to go down my way. And anything in the way, I got to convince people of, and nothing's going to stop me. So throughout the entire first act, it's, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm not doing it through him. I'm doing this my way. And then John is kind of the juxtaposition of that, where it's, I'm not going to do this to, I think we should do it this way. And although we're best friends, we have very conflicting personalities in this. And Henry to me is this like main, not antagonist, but towards John in a way. He is the antagonist because he wants to do the opposite of everything John wants to do, despite wanting the same thing. Yeah.
So Samir, you're playing the other half of that then. You're playing John.
Yeah.
Who is John to you in what's his narrative and also his motivations?
So, to me, John is kind of like very pragmatic. I think a lot of his decisions are just like what is most practical. And I think, especially at the start, he's a little bit less passionate than Henry about the whole project. He kind of doesn't want to, like, yeah, he thinks Shakespeare is cool and all, but he doesn't really want to put his whole life into this book because at the end of the day, Shakespeare is not famous at this point. Shakespeare is kind of a no-name playwright. So I think like throughout the play, we get a lot of like contrast between Henry's like idealism and John's pragmatism. And it's like, so for me, what I'm trying to bring out in John is kind of that sense of a lot of his doubt is based on like the fear of failure too. But I think the main turning point for him is when his wife Rebecca, who Annika's playing, kind of convinces him to see the value of these plays and how, words they mean more than what they are just in the moment. They can last for a really long time, and Shakespeare's words really have.
And Annika, that brings us to you. You're the kind of the last piece of this puzzle. You're playing Rebecca. Who is Rebecca to you?
Gosh, when I went to audition, Rebecca was actually who I was hoping to get. So I could definitely tell you I was quite satisfied when the cast list came out. But when I ran through the play, like the first read through, just like, all of us sitting down and reading the script, I just loved some of Rebecca's, like so many of Rebecca's lines. They had such a good combination of like wit and just like humor, but also like you could really hear, even though she's very stern with John, oftentimes, convincing him, as Samir said, pushing him to do this book because she believes it's a good idea. But through that kind of sternness, you can hear how much she cares about him, and also how their dynamic is so full of like love and humor, and also just they lean back on each other so much. And I just love that about Rebecca. I see a lot of myself in that.
That's beautiful. How do you develop a character like that? Like, where do you begin? I know obviously it begins with what's on the page, but like for you, what's kind of the process?
Yeah, of course. As you said, it definitely begins with on the page. But really, I think I've had the very fortunate experience of having a lot of my own attributes in a lot of the characters I've played, which is, such a privilege to have because I can only imagine how difficult it could be to like force yourself into a narrative that you don't fit yourself. But I think with Rebecca specifically, this dynamic is just something I love portraying because I think I treat a lot of my friends this way in real life. I think I have a lot of some of the things that Rebecca says I could see myself saying like as a joke to one of my friends, and I try to portray that in I guess a bit more mature way considering Rebecca is an older woman. She's I believe 50 or 60 in the play, maybe more 50, but I think developing a character like this is something that requires a lot of intensity to like really read through the lines and really like understand so many key parts of the play because one line can hinge on so many different like reactions or so many different like so many different characters all share the same and similar views in this, and I think a lot of Rebecca's lines portray a lot of that really really well.
Ishani, how do you develop Elizabeth from script to stage? Like, do you have a process for that?
Yeah, it's pretty similar to what Annika was saying about Rebecca, but I kind of take her words at face value first, and then I think like, oh, like how would I, if I were in this situation, react to this? And then I kind of consider more of the historical context of what they're doing. I remember one line, I had initially read it as like, she's like degrading this one character, but then my director gave me a note about how thinking about the historical context in it, she was talking about how drinking culture was so heavy back then, and she wanted to. I originally thought that she was kind of telling this character off for drinking so much, but it was kind of more of out of concern rather than to reprimand him. And I think considering how Shakespeare had died because of like overuse of alcohol, it was important to then take that into account for my character and treat overuse of alcohol as like a concern rather than like oh, you shouldn't do that.
You know, speaking of the historical context, do you feel like there is like a change to your development process at all because these are real people that have lived a life and that there's like text on them? Like, do you find yourself diving deeper into that history to kind of bring Elizabeth to life?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were doing like kind of research on like ages specifically, what type of like setting they were in, and like, oh, if I had kids, like what were they like, and like how old are they? And I think that kind of brought me into like what I should be feeling and like how mature I was at this point, and seeing how she handled her finances, like it kind of made me realize like, oh, she's in charge and she knows what she's doing.
Samir, what is kind of your process for developing your character? And then also the same question, do you feel like it's a different development process because this is based on a real person?
Well, I guess to answer the second part of that first, I've kind of been thinking about that, right? Like, is the fact that they're real people, does that change anything
Sure.
compared to, fictional characters? And I kind of feel like it doesn't, because it's not really a documentary. It's not like you're sitting
Sure.
down and you're trying to get a factual description of everything that happened to the publishing of Shakespeare's plays, because that would be very dry. And I feel like what we're doing is maybe not so much a factual description of events, but it's like the characters we're playing are like, yes, they were real, but they're still ultimately characters, and they serve the author's purpose in some way. So I've actually tried not to like learn a ton about my character in real life, because I think it leaves more freedom for creativity and interpretation of like how the character of John Hemmings fits in the play, versus like trying to be as factual to the real John Hemmings, because there's a difference there. And I don't feel like I'm playing the real John Hemmings. I'm playing this character in this play to serve a specific purpose.
That's an excellent answer. I mean, and that makes sense though, too. Like, you want to be able to be true to the show that you're doing while also getting to kind of make the role yours in a way.
Yeah, I've kind of just treated John as like a kind of a fictional character, which is a little weird to say considering he's real, but I think it's worked out well for me so far, because it helps me, build my own kind of idea of who John is.
In a way, this isn't the theater nerd in me. Kind of reminds me of like how we can take liberties and do things like a Hamilton or a Six, and like this is a person that lived years and years and years ago. This isn't someone that's like still alive. We're telling their story here. So that's kind of cool that you're able to play within that sandbox.
Yeah.
Carlos, how about for you? How do you bring your character of Henry from page to screen? Like, what is your personal process?
For me, so it always starts for me with the first read through and just looking at what words I should try to emphasize. And then even deeper than that, like after my first look, I'm like really thinking about what is my character's goal in this scene and then how I can get that to jump off the paper and get that into an audience's mind. And I think especially for my character who cracks a lot of jokes, like he has this trope about this play called Pericles and it always gets brought up. And for me it's thinking about how can I get that to the audience's mind so that they can laugh at it. And then also when it gets deeper, it's how can I express my anger or frustration towards blank in order to get that into the audience? Like I always imagine it as if I'm listening to myself, and if I was an audience member, would this be what I would expect from some person's natural speech? Because obviously we don't want to make it sound like we're acting too hard, but at the
Sure.
same time, we need to get that motivation, like my character's motivation, into the audience's mind. So a lot of it is just thinking, and one of our directors who supervised one of our rehearsals this year drilled us particularly on this, like, what is your character's goal? Why are you here? What are you doing? And for me, it's mostly thinking about that.
Annika, so what is the theme from the show that seems to resonate with you the most?
The theme, gosh, this is something I was thinking about this even beforehand because this is such a complex play to analyze. Because I mean, we've discussed it a bit where it's about real people, but also like Samir was saying, it's for an author's portrayal. It's their portrayal of these characters. I think a theme that really resides with me is persistence throughout this play. Because I think there's so much of either persistence or support. There's so much of like all of our characters leaning on each other, and there's so much that needs to be taken into account when we think about like what does this play mean to us? What is Lauren Gunderson trying to portray to us? What are the real people in this play? What was their goal with this in like taking aside them from this actual play? But I think for me what really resonates is the fact that there's so many hurdles that these characters, specifically John and Henry, have to get through to make this folio of Will's plays become a real thing. They have to go through so many different printing processes. It's expensive back in the day. William Shakespeare, he wasn't this big thing yet. This is they are making Will into this big thing. And I can only imagine like how difficult that must have been for the real characters to persist through in a time like that. It's just something that I think sticks with me is the fact that they really, even though John wasn't on board in the beginning, even though Henry was overly on board in the beginning, in the end, they evened it out so well and they made it happen.
Persistence, that's a great one. Samir, how about for you? Which one really kind of resonates with you with where you're at right now?
So for me personally, I feel like the part of the Book of Will that is interesting to me, or the most interesting to me, is the fact that it's like a play about plays, right? And there's a couple of times where we do like fourth wall breaks, sort of, where it's like we're directly addressing the audience, and we're kind of answering the question of why is there an audience even watching this play in the first place, right? Like, what drives people to come see plays, to read Shakespeare, to do all this? And I think a big part of it was the ability to like feel emotions through stage, through watching plays, and leading to like healing for yourself. Because I think both John and Henry, they use plays as a kind of a outlet for their emotions, and through acting, they can deal with a lot of their own personal problems. And so that's what I felt resonated with me the most, because it kind of connected to my own personal reasons for enjoying acting in the first place, which is, to express these emotions that are sometimes hard to express in real life.
For sure. I mean, that's also an excellent answer. We're having some great answers from this. I love this. Ishani, how about for you? What themes really stand out to you?
I would have to agree with Samir. I really loved the like delving into why is theater important, and I think that was covered really well through Henry and John. I think Henry has this great monologue about how life is lived on theater, and you can see so much of yourself just by watching it, let alone like you could even from acting in it, like you get so much, but even just from watching it, you can feel these emotions even bigger than maybe just like thinking about them. And I really liked that. That was my favorite.
I
Carlos's
mean,
monologue makes me cry every time. He recites it so beautifully. I'm always on backstage. I'm
Yeah.
weeping. It's so amazing.
Carlos, you got the monologue that everyone's loving.
I appreciate
Um,
it. Very fun monologue. It was in the audition cut. I was having a blast.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Carlos, I didn't forget about you though. What themes really stand out to you from the Book of Will that resonate with you currently?
So this is kind of branching off what Ishani and Samir just said, but it's just not like just for acting, but the importance of storytelling and the repetition of storytelling and how that makes us feel over and over again. Like this is what my monologue touches on, but plays end, even if you don't like it, you can go to a different one. You might like that one. You can go to the same one that you're in, find it again. And I just think that's beautiful because it applies not to just plays, but every kind of story you read. Like any book you can read again and feel a lot of the same emotions and relive it. And I think that's just a beautiful thing about this play that it touches on. And then one other thing that I also like to bring up was like, what is a legacy worth? And like, does the end justify the means? Like, if we're going to print through this printer, is that worth it? So like, that also connects to the legacy part of it
For sure.
that I mentioned earlier.
You know, quite a few of you talked about the importance of theater. And so, Carlos, I'm going to throw it back to you real quick, but like, maybe not even just how this show has challenged you, but how have you grown as an actor at the International Academy of East High? Like, you sounds like you've been through drama club quite a bit here. I mean, it sounds like you all have, correct?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So, Carlos, how have you grown?
So I started in my first play. I was lucky enough to land actually a pretty large role, which was Lysander in A Midsummer Night's Dream. And also just to say that Annika and Ishani have both been in drama club actually longer than me. I started in my sophomore year, so this is my fifth play. And through these past four plays, I have written on my audition paper that I wanted a role that was slightly different from the last every time. So I started as Lysander, then I believe it was a Doll's House. I
Yeah.
think, yeah,
Yeah,
where I
that
played
was an excellent.
Krogstad, which was very juxtaposing. And I think being at International Academy East has definitely expanded my range in a huge way because what was after A Doll's House?
Putnam.
That was Putnam?
Yeah.
That was Putnam. Okay. It was Putnam County Spelling Bee, which was hugely different from the two plays we had done before that. And I'm just feel like I'm really lucky to go to the school where we've done so many different things that has allowed me to expand my range because I've been mean, I've been loving, I've been funny, I've been all three in one play, which is kind of where we're at right now. And yeah, I'm just lucky. I'm happy with how I've grown and the way I've been casted in order to really build me as an actor and help express these emotions and provide emotions to an audience.
Yeah, I think Miss Russell our director does a great job of picking our
Oh my
plays. I
gosh.
think
Yeah.
she chooses plays with such variety of emotions and themes, and I really love that.
Miss Russell is so amazing. I love her so much. She picks such every time. It's never a disappointment. Never.
I was going to say, I got to speak with her about Much Ado About Nothing, and she has so much passion for the arts. It's incredible.
Oh yeah.
Um,
She should be on Broadway.
Yes,
She
please
should,
get her
she
on
should.
Broadway.
Did any of you get to go see her in Much Ado?
I did.
Me and
I was gonna say
Carlos
that
went
was
together.
incredible.
Amazing.
So, Shani, you kind of started you started your freshman year in drama. So, what has kind of been your journey, and how have you grown
Yeah.
through this program?
Okay, I started with really small roles at first, and I'm very introverted and shy, and I'm pretty small as like a person. Like I'm not really one for expressing myself, but I found this outlet and I was like completely like enthralled by it. Like it was so fun for me, and because I never have like a chance to be big and be bold, but this was kind of like my one chance to like do it, and it just felt so impactful to me. And eventually I started getting bigger roles, and last year was my biggest yet. It was Anne Frank, and she means a lot to me. I think obviously she's a real historical person, so just telling her story was really beautiful to me because it felt like an honor to be able to like tell her story because it's so important. And I also just saw a lot of myself in her, and she has like such a wide range of emotions because she's a teenage girl just like me, and it was really interesting to see that in a play.
Ishani portrayed Anne beautifully. She had so many lines. I remember staying up with her to rehearse some of the lines, and we do it on Quizlet to like memorize our
Okay.
lines. And she would have one line spread out over like 3 different Quizlet flashcards, and I would look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh. It was amazing to see that she persisted through that. It was pretty inspiring, I can't lie.
That's really cool. I just spoke to somebody else they're currently doing the Diary of Anne Frank, and they were saying about how like it is such an emotional range from like top to bottom. You know, you kind of cover it all.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that you get to kind of express yourself and grow with those kinds of roles.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she has like anger and soft, and she's conveying these really personal events in her life, and obviously very traumatic. And I think that's so not only beautiful but important to share.
Annika, we're going to go to you because you've also been doing this since freshman year. What has been your journey, and how have you grown as an actor and in your craft?
Well, I think I'd have to say, to juxtapose Ishani a bit, I am a very extroverted person. I love to talk. Sometimes I'll be a little too loud. I love to talk. I love to express myself in any way I can. And I think when I came into freshman year, I can't, it's so difficult for me to remember how I even got really into drama club, but I guess I found myself there somehow. And kind of like Ishani, I started off with a few small roles, but then I got my big role in sophomore year when I was Hermia to Carlos's Lysander, which was such a fun experience. It's something I look back really fondly on. Like, I'm tearing up right now a little bit because it's just such a fond memory for me to play. It was such a time in my life that it's something I'm going to really take with me for a long time. But I think developing as an actor, I also, in my junior year, unfortunately, I didn't participate in Putnam County Spelling Bee, which was a bit disappointing for me because it was a musical, but I did get to participate in Tech Crew too. So I feel like I've really gotten a really all-around theater experience. I have to say I love acting a little bit more, but I think as an actor, I've really, especially because of Miss Russell's help, she's really helped me know what to do when I see a character that I'm playing. Like, obviously, of course, like you said, the first step is reading off the paper and understanding what your character's saying on the paper. But as I get older and as I go through more plays, it comes to me so much easier about how I should do this, what I should do this. Like freshman year, I think we were all figuring out like how to cheat out into the audience and how to use our diaphragm to project and making sure that we weren't covering a character. But senior year, now that we really have all that down, it allows so much more space to really look into your character even more. You have so much less to think about on stage and more to think about in your script and in your character and in your lines. And I think having that transition from focusing on my stage presence to my character's stage presence is such a emotional thing for me to go through. And the fact that I get to do it with like all my friends and castmates, and the fact that I've been so lucky to have so many, actually this exact cast in so many of the plays, it's so fun to get to keep that dynamic all throughout those, what is that, 7 plays now? Oh my gosh, like 7, 8 plays.
I mean, that is kind of cool that you get to continue doing this with what become some of your best friends, you know, like you're building out these shows and stuff. Samir, last but not least, what has been your journey in growing here as an actor in drama club at International Academy East High? Sorry.
So for me, honestly, I was really never into drama, especially my freshman year. I was like, kind of considered it a strange thing to do, but I think the show that caught my interest was Midsummer Night's Dream with Annika and Carlos, of course. And it was like, I don't know, watching that, I just thought that looked like I wasn't very deep, I guess. I just thought it looked really fun, and I was like, it seems like a new thing to try, and I love trying new things. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and try it out. So my first play was my second semester of my sophomore year, and I played Dr. Rank in A Doll's House, and I think he's a very kind of interesting character to play because he's deeply depressed, but then he was also like extremely drunk a lot. So he was a very bipolar character, and I kind of uh yeah, I liked that a lot. And then I didn't do drama my junior year because I was kind of busy. But then coming back to this year, I was like having more free time, and I was like, okay, I'll try out for a play. I honestly did not expect to get the lead role at all, but um yeah, I was like, I'll just go ahead and try it. And I think this play has, in a lot of ways, like helped me figure out why I'm doing this because I never really like thought about it that deeply before. I just kind of was like, okay, yeah, it's fun, it's cool. I have a bunch of friends doing it. But this play, because it's so much about the why of why do we act, why do we see theater, it's helped me figure out that the process of getting some of those emotions that I have and being able to express that is like a catharsis and it's like something that's important to me. So yeah, kind of like through this play, I've figured out more about why I want to be an actor, I guess.
And do you want to continue with acting past high school?
I'm not entirely sure yet. I mean, the future is always like so uncertain, but yeah, I'd be interested in it for sure.
For sure. I mean, that was a very, very balancing answer there. So we appreciate that. Carlos, what about you? Do you want to continue acting past this? Got the acting bug. Okay.
Yeah, definitely me
You should-
too.
I was going to say, Annika, what about you? Yeah? I'm going to say, yeah,
Absolutely.
probably. I was going to
This
say,
is it's such a lovely thing to be able to do. It's something I see myself doing far into the future. Of course, my dream is to become an actress, like big movies, like something so amazing like that. But even if I was just like participating in like community-based theaters, it's something I see myself doing in the future and definitely going to see a lot into my adulthood.
perfect.
I agree.
So-
Yeah, me too.
We love that. So final question for all of you, and Ishani, I'm gonna start with you. Is just what are you hoping audiences take away from this production of The Book of Will?
Similar to what my favorite theme was, I really hope the audience takes away why we tell stories and why we engage in theater because I think it's so important to feel those emotions and tell these stories that have such emotional weight to them because it really helps be more in tune with our own emotions and hear important stories like the Diary of Anne Frank, for example. Like that is such an important story to tell, and I think it was just portrayed in such a beautiful way.
Perfect. Carlos, what do you want audiences to take away?
Yeah, I don't want to just repeat the same thing she was saying, but
No, that's okay.
I definitely want everybody to think about why they came to the show and like in the future, where are they going to go in terms of storytelling? Are they going to watch more plays? Like, I just want to get everybody into theater, just going to plays. And another thing is that I really wanted to laugh at my Pericles students because I think they're hilarious.
Samir, how about yourself?
Yeah, kind of much of the same. I would kind of hope that um for someone like myself, I would say like 2 or 3 years ago, where I never really thought about entertainment and like drama all that seriously. I was just like, yeah, I think like a play like this could be a really good like catalyst for especially like some of the younger high schoolers we have and to start thinking about why it's important that they express themselves and not just in theater, of course, because maybe theater is not for everyone, maybe not everyone wants to do it, but like just in general, the importance of expressing your emotions.
Brilliant answer. Annika, you're closing us out. So lead us strong of just what are you hoping audiences take away from this production?
Gosh, I think everyone did such a good job of explaining.
I know.
I think
I'm
there's
sorry.
so many important there are so many important things that I think we all hope to portray in this play. Specifically the why, like what Samir was saying and what everyone was saying. There's so much in this play about just like, oh, why are we making this folio? why are we going to do it if no one's going to buy it? Why do we go to see theater? Why do we do this? And I think I also share that same wish that even if it's not a catalyst for everybody to do theater, it's a catalyst to get everybody to think, yeah, why am I doing this thing right now? Why am I here watching this play? Like, is it for a friend? Is it because I have an interest in this? Why am I taking this particular subject right now? Like, is this something I'm interested in? There are so many things that I think this play could really kick off for a lot of the younger audiences watching. And I also think, to go back to one of my answers in the questions earlier about the theme of the play, that was persistence. I hope that people take away that there's so many things that are possible with persistence. And of course, I feel like a lot of us are built in with the knowledge that you can do a lot of what you put your mind to, but there are realistic roadblocks to a lot of those things. And I think this play is such an encouraging factor in, I mean, these people from the 1600s, like, knowing how expensive things were then and how not very popular some plays were and this kind of entertainment was. They worked together and worked with people they didn't like and made it happen. And that this play shows us why we even know who William Shakespeare is today. And I hope that people can take away that, like, they can do something, even if it's not as impactful as becoming the next William Shakespeare. They can take away that they too can make a difference in just their own life and in their own future.
All brilliant answers. I want to thank you all so much for your time. I know it's late on a school night, so I appreciate you talking with me and taking time out of your college applications. So
Thank you. Thank you for
Yes,
inviting
thank you
us.
so much
Thank
for
you for
having
having
us.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Of
a great
course.
time.
So the Book of Will plays for 2 nights, November 21st and 22nd at the International Academy of East High School. The tickets are priced at $10, so get your tickets now, and we'll see you there.
Yeah, hope to see you guys there. Thank you so much again.